There's a heavyweight tournament in Saudi Arabia later this year. Is it true or not? What do we make of it as an idea? Let's hear from Deontay Wilder's trainer, Malik Scott, first of all. He told IFL TV that reports of a heavyweight tournament are very much true and that Wilder could well end up fighting Anthony Joshua.
Saudi Arabia, to me, is the threshold of opening up what boxing really is about to be on a high stage in extreme, incredible revenue. I'm on the inside of the meetings. Deontay has me sitting right next to him when we go in these meetings. Those rumors are true. Negotiations are going on. And big fights are going to be happening, not just with us, with a lot of top fighters in the heavyweight division in Saudi Arabia. Deontay wants to fight. I want to fight. Shelly wants to fight for Deontay. This whole side over here wants to fight. We want to see what AJ does. Now, the ball is kind of in his court, so we'll see how he's going to take advantage of it. But, we're available and we're ready.
Right, Nick, I have spoken this week. I heard Eddie Hearn. I heard Malik Scott. But on Tuesday afternoon, I spoke to both Warrens, George and Frank Warren, and I spoke to Alexander Krasiuk. Alexander Krasiuk told me, just to put us in the picture, that Alexander Usyk is in talks to fight Daniel Dubois this summer, and that is ongoing. They're going to make that fight. That's what he's saying. Frank Warren said, we're not at the same table that Eddie Hearn is talking about with the Alexander Usyk, Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder foursome in one night in Saudi Arabia, or maybe a tournament. They're not at the table yet. Is this wishful thinking on Eddie Hearn's part? Is he trying to explain AJ's decision, Anthony Joshua's decision, to delay his comeback to December and make it have more sense? Because for me, it's Eddie putting it out there. Yes, there was a cavalcade, a waterfall of noise around it when he did that IFL interview earlier in the week. But is it realistic? Can it really happen? And can we really see these four guys fight on the same night?
Boxing needs it to happen. It's very romantic and it sounds incredible, and it's the type of fight that, back in the 80s, we often seen crazy cards like this with multiple world title leading contenders on the same card doing these kind of eliminators. We've seen it just a couple of years ago on a different scale with the World Boxing Super Series, where the Sauerlands were able to bring together the best cruiserweights and the best bantamweights, and we've seen superstars like Alexander Usyk and Inoue get crowned as undisputed champions because of these tournaments. They're fantastic, and this would be incredible for boxing. But let's be honest, you're talking about four different promoters, four different broadcasters, an absolute headache to put it together. Listen, money talks at the end of the day. If the Saudi Arabians can come up with $500 million, then who knows? Maybe it could happen. I think we should all pray it happens, because again, this brings more, something like that would bring more eyeballs and more attention, positive attention to the sport of boxing than anything we've seen in a long time. So romantically, I want to be invested. I want to be involved. Do I believe anything Eddie says anymore? Not after the Conor Benn Eubank scenario. It's hard to trust anything that comes out of his mouth anymore. But come on, Gareth, let's be positive, shall we? Let's pretend it can happen, and let's pretend the Saudis can bankroll it. And if it does, what a night that would be. The four best heavyweights on the planet in a shootout to set up a 2024 final. Lovely.
Well, if you take the top line, Tyson Fury against Alexander Usyk and Anthony Joshua against Deontay Wilder on the same card on the same night would be an extraordinary event. But come on, Nick, in reality, it's a truly impossible scenario and will not happen. It's going to take, as Eddie Hearn said, it will take about 320 million quid, $400 million in my view. Saudi Arabia have the money. They've shown they've got the willingness and the ambition to deep dive into boxing. Yet getting four of the biggest boxers in the world, their teams, their broadcasters together to make it happen really is, for me, an impossible dream. But in the last week or two, the movers and shakers in the background are going over the possibilities. There's nothing wrong with the idea, but I'm afraid in practice it will not work. Deep down, I think Eddie Hearn knows this, but it's a great gambit. And it's still part of the epic game, that power-broking chess that's ongoing at present in heavyweight boxing's Game of Thrones. But I do think it's possible to create a 3-night tournament where you could have Usyk against Fury, you could have Wilder against Joshua. Massive gamble, by the way, for Joshua and Hearn, in my view. And then the winners meet. Now, if I pick my 2 winners, we'll end up with Fury Wilder 4 and Usyk Joshua 3 on the 3rd night. But look, like you, it would be amazing if it does happen. As you rightly say, you go back to 1986-87, and there was a thing called the Heavyweight World Series, which you kind of touched on there, which involved a huge sequence of professional boxing matches to crown the undisputed heavyweight champion. It was promoted by Don King. It was broadcast on HBO Sports and ended with Iron Mike Tyson as undisputed champion. He held the IBF, WBA, and WBC titles. I'm old enough to remember that. They were different times. But imagine if Mike Tyson was in his pomp now, willing to take on all comers 3 times a year, you suspect we might have a series of events planned in the Middle East, with that shift having come really quickly. The point you made just now about wouldn't it be great to see Tyson Fury in any kind of fight at the moment, that's what we really need now. The willingness of all the fighters to say, yeah, let's get it on. Let's make this worthy. And maybe they could extend the tournament, as I spoke with Dillian White earlier in the week. They could actually make it an 8-man tournament. There's enough money to make an 8-man tournament in boxing, in heavyweight boxing, and it would be absolutely brilliant.
There is, absolutely. And I get what you're saying. I like the fact that Alexander Usyk out of those 4 is the guy that's willing to, keep active and take on Daniel Dubois, take care of one of his mandatories. I think Tyson Fury should be doing exactly the same thing. I'd love to see AJ in another fight because I'd like to see him be a little bit more convincing before he gets in with any of the aforementioned other 3. I think it's a tactic from Eddie Hearn so everybody discusses this quartet, these 4 guys as the top 4 guys in the world. Suddenly, this was kind of sleeked out just before Joe Joyce's fight, just in case Joe Joyce looked great against Zhang. It was a little way of saying these are the best 4 in the world, by the way. Whereas, absolutely, I think if Joe Joyce had beaten Zhang inside 6 rounds, we'd all be saying, "Wait a minute, why is Anthony Joshua in this 4?" When Joyce is the guy that's most deserving. So I think there was a little bit of tactics played there, but hey ho, it's played out perfectly. These are the 4 names. The point is, Gareth, we couldn't even get Usyk versus Fury over the line for Wembley Stadium earlier in this year. And now we're supposed to be enamoured and engaged over a 4-man 2-fight tournament to happen later in the year. As you say, it's next to impossible. These guys just need to start fighting. For me, out of them all, it's only kind of Usyk that is willing to take on anybody. I want to see AJ win. I want to see him AJ look convincing before he does anything else. All the noise after Franklin was new coach. It's a new setup. It's going to take time. It's going to take time. And now you expect us to believe he's going to sit on the bench for 7 months and then take on Deontay Wilder, who even AJ at his pomp wouldn't have faced anyway. It's all smoke and mirrors, and this is the problem with the heavyweight division because it leads the sport of boxing and it lets us down so convincingly. Look what you've done. You've made me get negative. I wanted to say positive today, but this heavyweight division breaks us, Gareth.
That's what I'm saying. Listen, I live with it. I say I live with this every day. I live with the thoughts about this every day. I live with broadcasting about it every day. And like you say, that when heavyweight boxing is healthy, the whole of boxing is healthy. And we should be going into this week. Yeah, we should be going into exciting thoughts about Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk fighting each other at a sold-out England National Football Stadium at Wembley this, in the next 10 days. It would have just been so exciting. And we're not. Instead, we're talking about possible, probable, impossible dreams. And, one of the big things I don't agree with you about Alexander Usyk either, by the way. I think he's holding out for the money as well. I really do. I do think Fury made it difficult for him in that negotiation. There's no doubt about it. But
Fury blew it, in my opinion.
But they're all, maybe. But they're all tempted by that money that's going to be available in Saudi Arabia, and all roads are leading towards there. I do think that's why Anthony Joshua has decided to hold out for something big in Saudi. There's no doubt they're talking about he against Wilder there later on in the year. The problem is these kind of teases that go on all the time. We had it 2.5, 3 years ago nearly when we had it longer than that. 2018, they were talking about Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder. Do you remember? 50 million, all that kind of stuff. That was the big tease. Then the 2 fights with Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua, which got very close. Then the arbitration case. And Fury went and fought Wilder, which we didn't want, but in the end, it ended up as a great event. Then you had Fury and Joshua, a fight that never happened. Then Fury and Usyk, that never happened. The problem with this scenario, the reason I'm being negative about it and not projecting it, is because it's not realistic. It's realistic for 2 of them, but not 4 of them at the moment. And all we're going to do is another spiraling situation, if it doesn't happen, where the fans have been teased again. And everyone says, oh, they can't make the fights in boxing. So I think it's a double-edged sword right now, and it's a very difficult scenario. You said it 10 minutes ago. The key is they all need to say, we need to fight. And I'll tell you something, Usyk, Joshua, Fury and Wilder all have enough money in the bank that they don't have to fight. And I don't say that's part of the problem, because it's them putting themselves on the line. But it does create a problem in terms of getting the fights made. Plus the money that's available in Saudi Arabia.
Exactly. And don't forget, these people are industries. They have hundreds of staff and people working around them and everything else that live off their success and their ongoing success. But at the end of the day, they've all got to look themselves in the mirror when they retire from the sport and say, was I the best heavyweight during that era? In fact, did I even take my shot at being the best heavyweight of that era? And right now, not one of the 4 can say, yes, they have.
No.
Because Fury's fought just 2 guys in the entire top 15.
Yeah.
At least AJ's fought 6 of them. Okay, he's come up short against one of them, 2 of them actually. But at least he's taken a shot. But he hasn't faced Fury. He hasn't faced Wilder. They have to face one another. So when they retire, we can all pat them on the back and go, good on you. You had a good crack to define your legacy in that era. Perfect.